Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today we are going to talk on one of the interesting topics in the area of international studies. Our discussion is going to be around India's foreign policy towards Central Asia republics, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj. Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj is teaching in School of International Studies in JNU. So let's welcome our guest Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj and let's try to get deep insight into today's topic. Hello sir, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you, Gitika ji. Thank you, students and audience. Today, I'm going to speak on India's foreign policy towards the Central Asian republics. That there are 5 Central Asian republics. They have become independent states after the collapse of former Soviet. In 1990, and these 5 republics they are named as consist of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. If you are looking these 5 republics, if they are geostrategically are very important, very significant, you can see that on the northeastern side, they are bordering with Russia, and then the southern side you can take that they are bordering with Afghanistan, and then in Iran, and then you can say in the southeast they are bordering with China. So you can say that these 5 republics are bordering with the revisionist power, or like Russia and China, and that conflicting states, or you can say that the Islamic world or Middle East, and of course they are also bordering with the conflicting South Asian states, particularly with Afghanistan, where you can see that Afghanistan had been very significant, very important in the context of war on terror, where Taliban regime had started one kind of fundamentalism or radicalism in Afghanistan from 2001, and then the international powers, or particularly the United States, had come to fight against war on terror, and now the international community, with the support of the great powers, with the support of the superpower, they are trying to bring the stability in Afghanistan. But what is that important? They are bordering with the Central Asian republics. This is the geostrategic location, and when you talk about the ambitious projects by China, like One Belt, One Road, they are trying to connect with Central Asian republics to the European countries, where Walk-on corridor had been very significant, very important for this, and China also trying to reach these Central Asian republics for its trade and business, and because now today China has about $100 million trade with Afghanistan. They are in process to increase the trade with Afghanistan and the Central Asian Republic. So China is having a great interest in these former Soviet states, today independent republics, and then other things that you can see that Russia is still having one kind of revisionist stand, or you can say that trying to reassert the former Soviet states, not only in Central Asia, these 5 republics, but other states like Ukraine, and you can say the other states like Georgia, and all these republics, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, and all that. The Russians are trying to make its presence. So geostrategically and geoeconomically, these 5 Central Asian republics are very important for the world community. And when it comes to India and India's relations with the Central Asian republics, then it is very important geostrategically and geoeconomically as well. India is trying to connect with the Central Asian countries since 1990s when they have become independent, because geoeconomically and geostrategically, if you see that what India has started become the fastest growing economy in the world, and with this fastest growing economy in the world, India is trying to mobilize the maximum natural resources, and where these 5 republics, you can say Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, that they are rich in oil and natural resources. So India is trying to bring these resources through Afghanistan or through Pakistan. We have heard about the Tapi gas pipeline, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline, and other way India is also trying to connect these Central Asian republics through Afghanistan, and where the present government, Modi government, had initiated to build Chaba port with the help, with the support, and with the agreements with Iranian government. So you can see that these republics are very important, very significant for India as well, for the economic regions, or you can say for geostrategic or geoeconomic calculations, where India is looking for market in these countries. And so if you are looking the other compositions, what are these the major people of all, but Tajikistan speaks Turkish language, so there is a lot of Turkish influence. Tajik speaks as Iranian language, and the most are Sunni Muslims. So some of Tajik are Shia Muslims, but the point is that it makes concerns that these had been the moderate progressive states during the Soviet periods, but some of the extremist forces like Al-Qaeda, like the Islamic organizations, they are trying to radicalize, they are trying to introduce the fundamentalist values of Islam in these republics. So that has been very important for India, because it is essential to make the communal harmony and social harmony and pluralism in South Asia. These Central Asian republics are very important because they are bordering with South Asian states, particularly Afghanistan, and that has quite influence in Pakistan and other states. The other point it comes that most of these republics are closely related, or historically or culturally, with the Central Asian republics and with the South Asian countries. By the late 19th century, Russian Tsar had conquered the last independent principality of Central Asia. By the early 1920s, Soviet power had imposed, and by 1936, you can say these 5 Soviet socialist republic had been created by the former Soviet Union, which gained independence after the collapse of Soviet in 1991. So you can see that what kind of social compositions are there, what kind of influences from Russia or from Central Asia or from Iran it had been in these countries. And now, since they have become independent in 1990s, after that they are basically become very important for all these countries. In 1990s, Islamabad hoped to capitalize on the two-pronged strategy based on using its Muslim identity to forge close ties with the newly independent Central Asian states and to create a friendly government in Kabul that would free Pakistan from its confinement in South Asia. So Pakistan had been quite interested in these 5 republics, particularly that Pakistan is trying to align with these 5 republics for using its Islamic identity, and it had been, since it had been bordered with Afghanistan, so Pakistan had also interest in Afghanistan, so that Afghanistan can be radicalized, and there Pakistan supported Talibanis, and those Talibanis, with the help of Afghanistan, they can also radicalize these 5 Central Asian republics. Second interest of Pakistan was the developing strong commercial link with these Central Asian republics that would promote its economic and developmental goals. So these were the 2 Islamabad's motive, you can say, in these 5 republics. But the success of the approach was compromised when Islamabad shifted its support to the extremist Taliban and helped the groups in 1996 to take over the Afghanistan. From Islamabad's perspectives, a Pakistan-sponsored government in Afghanistan provided both strategic depth against India and reduced pressure from Kabul for a renegotiation of contested British-era Durand Line that represented the geographical boundaries separating Afghanistan and Pakistan. So my point is that from the very beginning, you can say that Afghanistan had become very important link between India and these 5 central republics, and between Pakistan and these 5 republics. There, Pakistan was moreover trying to use its radical or Islamic identity to mobilize these 5 republics. Though in 1990s that India tried to establish its relations in the early 1990s. India had just embarked on a policy of economic reforms, and it was in no position to exploit the trade and investment opportunities with these new republics in initial stage of reforms in India in 1990, especially when they themselves lacked the means to cast their economic nets abroad. So India was in the initial stage, but though until the last few years, India had concentrated its economic and diplomatic resources on its eastern border, where the Look East policy had come out, and towards the western border, where with the focuses on the development of wide-ranging relations with the Central Asian republics. Transportation facilities which could allow trade and other exchanges were sharply restricted by the formidable political and geographical barriers. What are the barriers? Pakistan and Afghanistan. These are the two barriers, and in the northern side, you can say that Himalayan mountain had also become very important. But it was the partisan, or you can say that the partisan legacy of South Asia had also been dominating, where India could not have direct access to the Afghanistan as well as to the Central Asian republics. However, over the last 2-3 decades, India had been unrelentingly in its effort to correct the oversights what had been towards the Central Asian countries during their independence, especially as economic growth has facilitated these endeavors, and started in particularly, you can say, in 2009, high-level visits by top Indians, diplomats, or you can say officials, to the Central Asian Republic, and we had also welcomed many of the top Central Asian leaders to India from 2008. And what happened in 2012, you can say, when during Manmohan Singh's visit, we have introduced Connect Central Asia policy in that had been, but prior to this, viewing India's surrounding region in these terms of widening concentric circle, that these 5 republics had become very important, very significant for India, and we did not have that kind of conducive environment, or we did not have that geographical passage to reach these 5 republics. Though we have introduced Connect Central Asia policy, so that we can maximize, we can align with these countries. India's Connect Central Asia policy, you can say that during the past few years, New Delhi has stepped up in engaging with the Central Asian republics with the aim of building a long-term partnership, both bilaterally and collectively. India has now expressed its desire to play an expanded and more meaningful role in the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, including its case for full membership in the organizations. The high-level visits from both the sides, Kazakh President Nasrullah visited to Delhi, and then President in 2012, Indian President had also visited to Tajikistan in Tajikistan, and finally these exchanges of high-level visits had been continued during UPA 1 and UPA 2. The first India Central Asia dialogue, a track 2 initiative, was organized in 2012, and there this Connect Central Asia policy was formalized. What are the basic you can say that the principles of these Connect Central Asia policy? That some of the elements of India's Connect Central Asia policy can be outlined as following. India will continue to build on its strong political relations through exchange of high-level visits. India's leaders will interact closely both in bilaterally and multilateral fora. So this was basically outlined that how you can take the apex levels of meetings and exchange between the Central Asian republics and India. What was the purpose? That how we can normalize our political relations with these five republics, and where you can have better cooperations in geostrategic and geoeconomic field, where you can have extend your trade and economic cooperations with these countries. So what you can say that that India will strengthen its strategic and security cooperation with focus on military training, joint research, counter-terrorism coordinations, and close consultation on Afghanistan. So you can see that India's the focus with these Central Asian countries was very much linked with Afghanistan, where India was trying to have an edge in Afghanistan because India had been the major supporter, or you can say had been given major portion of its aid and assistance to Afghanistan to build the road and to build the parliament, to build the infrastructures, schools, hospitals in Afghanistan, so that you can have better aid and better access to Afghanistan, and with the Afghanistan you can also connect yourself with the Central Asian Republic. So you can see that these are the interlinked, or you can say that it was moreover the India's interest was overlapping in the Afghanistan as well as in the Central Asian Republic, so that you can have better military and economic cooperations. You can have better security cooperations, and what is the most important point is that you can help them to democratize the societies and to develop a progressive society in these 5 Central Asian republics, where Afghanistan had also become was very important. The third point of the Connect Central Asia policy, if you will say, India will step up multilateral engagement with Central Asian countries, partners, using the synergy of joint efforts through existing fora, like the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations that I have talked already, and also becoming part of the Eurasian Economic Community. That is also very important for India, and the custom union, becoming part of the custom union of these 5 republics. India has already proposed a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement to integrate its market with the unifying Eurasian space. So India is basically trying to make its access physically and by trade and by economically in these 5 republican states, which are very important, very significant for source of very important, very significant source of energy and natural resources that could be instrumental for India's energy security. So you can see that for that purpose, India had introduced, formalized, tried to give maximum focus to the India's relations, or trying to strengthen India's relations with these 5 republics. What is the most important? India looks to Central Asia as a long-term partner in economic, trade, energy, and other natural resource exploitations and cooperations. So these are the fundamental causes that we were trying to connect ourselves with these 5 Central Asian regions, where the developing a progressive democratic environment in these countries, so that you can keep them away from the radicalizations, from the fundamentalist access, from the Islamizations process. Second, that you can develop a better infrastructures, better connectivity in these countries, and where you can make your access to these 5 Central Asian republics, and India also can have its positive, its constructive aids in Afghanistan, so that you can see that by making its presence in Afghanistan, in Central Asian republics, you will be in better bargaining positions, you will be in better situations to normalize your relations with Pakistan. So point is here that we are developing our political constituencies in these 5 republicans. We are trying to cultivate our market in these 5 Central Asian republics, and we are also trying to import the natural resources or explore the possibilities of natural resources. So we were bargaining, we were negotiating with Pakistan to bring the gas pipelines from these Central Asian republics. When we did not get a positive or very conducive environment with Pakistan, and when we did find that the situations in Afghanistan is also not very much normal or conducive, because Pakistan had been constantly supporting to Afghan Talibanis, or you can say Haqqani networks. So we had tried to look for the alternative resources, and in alternative resources we have started negotiating with Iran to develop the Chabar port, so that you can make your physical access to these Central Asian republics to Arabian Sea. So this is the primary motives of for that, and India from 2002 UPA 2 government, we have introduced Connect Central Asia policy, so that you can have better political and economic relations with these 5. Some of other points I will discuss in the second portion of my lecture.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us this productive session. And dear friends, as you know that we are talking on India's foreign policy towards Central Asia republics. And friends, we have a lot to discover. So you are requested to be with us as we are back after a short break. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, as you know that today we are talking on India's foreign policy towards Central Asia republics. In a previous session, we discussed on some of the major issues and some of the major points concerning to the different countries. In this session also, we are going to discuss in detail in perspective to different countries too. And for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj. Dr. Sanjay Bharadwaj is an eminent professor, and we believe that you are going to gather maximum knowledge through him through this session too. Hello sir, welcome to the session.
Ji, thank you very much. So I was in the first portion I was discussing the geostrategic and geoeconomic significance of these 5 Central Asian states, where I talked that the major powers, or you can say the revisionist powers like China and Russia, are still having significant importance, significant interest in these 5 republics. But what is the most important thing, but what I discussed, that these Central Asian republics are bordering with Afghanistan, and where it has been turbulent states since last 2 decades, you can say, when the Talibanis had took over with the support of Pakistan in Afghanistan in 1996. So keeping this geostrategic significance or geoeconomic importance, that India had also started taking its interest in these Central Asian republics, but we were very slow in the early 1990s, or you can say, but in the last 2 decades we had been very proactive. We have been very much making or increasing our presence in these Central Asian republics, particularly you can say from 2012, where we had introduced Connect Central Asia policy, and this Connect Central Asia policy, we are trying to make ourselves politically engaged with these countries, economically engaged with these countries, and I talked about that we are in the process of not only economic relations, not only the political relations, but other sectors that we are trying to engage ourselves. Like I talked about, that India is also helping or supporting or trying to set up civil hospitals and clinics in Central Asian countries. If you will go in the Indian hospitals, particularly in Delhi, Apollo and Escorts and all that, you will see that many of the Central Asian Republican peoples are coming for the treatment. So we are facilitating them to take the medical services from India, but that is not only, we are also helping these Central Asian republics, where 5 republics, to set up the civil hospitals and clinics in these Central Asian republics, because they had been under the Soviet influence, they had been under the Soviet regimes, but after independence they are looking the process of development, and for the process of development they are trying to align themselves with the emerging power, where India had become very significant, very important, not only in the health and medical sectors, in education sectors also. India is trying to help in higher education system, deliveries at a fractions of fees charged by Western universities. India is planning to assist in setting up the Central Asian universities in Bisbek for education, particularly where India had done far better in IT sectors, in management, in philosophy, in language. So we are also trying to set up the Central Asian universities, and trying to introduce the courses like the IT and software solutions and services in these countries. Not only that, the management sectors, and then it comes to the other areas like languages, that Indian languages are also taught in these countries. So we are acting like a soft power in these countries to develop their education systems, their civil hospitals, their infrastructure developments, and we are also trying to connect with these Central Asian countries culturally, so that they can come closer, that had been historically close to us during the British period or during the Mughal periods, you can say, but after the partisan, that because of the partisan politics or because of the partisan legacies, we had lost the physical connectivity with these Central Asian republics, because we did not have better relations, good relations with Pakistan, and Kashmir had become a disputed land in between the two countries, and we were facing the problem of terrorism supported by Pakistan, and not only we, but in the last 2 decades, Afghanistan is also facing the problem of terrorism supported by Pakistan. So we had basically lost the linkages what had been historically between the two countries. But now, after the 1990s and when India had started performing as the leading economy in the world, when India had started doing well in software industries, in education sector, in medical sectors, and also India has become a cultural or democratic credential power in the world, we had started using our soft power status to develop, to make the ties with the neighboring countries, or you can say with the neighboring regions, and where 5 Central Asian republics had come in our frame of developing cooperations with these countries. Apart of education and medical, India is also working to set up Central Asian e-network with its hub in India to deliver tele-education, telemedical connectivities, so that you can have the consultations, you can teach the students or in the universities and colleges from being in India. So we are trying to also have the educational cooperation, signing MOUs with these countries, and having you can say that the courses, developing a courses where students come, Central Asian Republican students can come to India and get educated, particularly, as I said, in the IT sectors, in medical sectors, in nursing, and all these countries. India and Central Asian companies can also go ahead. That could be to showcase India's capability in construction sectors, where India had been very successful, developed the construction industries not only in India but other parts of the world, and where the multi-story culture had been very popular in India. Now the Central Asian Republican countries, they are contracting with the Indian construction companies to set up, to go for the construction work in these 5 republicans, so that they can also develop their infrastructures with the help of Indian companies. That would also be on competitive rates, because they have the natural resources and they have the labor forces, so that if you can provide the capital supports, if you can provide the construction supports, these republics can develop them also. What India also trying to support them in the banking sectors, particularly the banking infrastructures in the region, in major barriers that had been major barriers for trade and investment in these 5 Central Asian republics. So Indian banks can expand their presence in these 5 republics, because banking reforms, it has been under the Soviet regimes, and the communist and the socialist ideology had been dominated. So there were a lack of the private sector developments, particularly banking sectors, and if you do not have easy terms for the loan, and you do not have easy terms for the investment and trade, your investment and trade will not flourish. So what India can do, that India can help can help to bring the reforms in banking sector, and Indian banks can also align with these 5 Central Asian republics. So these areas where the two countries would come closer politically, these areas where two countries would come closer economically and in the business and trade and in other sectors where that we are trying to explore in these 5 Central Asian republics. And that the last point that I would like to discuss about the Connect Central Asia policy, that connections between the people of both sides are the most vital linkages to sustain deep engagement with these Central Asian republics, where the educational cooperations, cultural cooperations, the visits and exchange by the civil society peoples, and not only that, that the ethos and the principles that had been the founding, or you can say that the values of Indian democracy can also be cultivated in these 5 Central Asian republics, because these are the newly independent. They were the newly independent countries. They do not have the culture of democracy during the Soviet period. So now, if the democratic values and ethos will be introduced in these countries, you can keep them away from the Islamic fundamentalism or extremism or Islamizations. This is one side. Second, from the authoritarian regimes in these countries. And if there is a democratic setup and culture in these 5 republics, India would have a better age to develop its political and social and economic relations with these countries, because India itself has become the largest functional democracy in the world, and these values and these ethos of India would bring the country closer to these Central Asian republics. So this India, what would happen, that India will what should do India, that India should promote and encourage regular exchanges of scholars, academics, civil society people, young delegates, to gain the deeper insights to each other's culture, society. That will bring, basically, that would bring, if you will see, there is in political science and political theory, there is that if there is more, if the functionalism talks about that if there is more cooperation in low political areas like the culture, society, business, trade, education, and if you have more bondings and exchanges and connections on these low political areas, the high politics would automatically work, that these republican countries politically will be connected between these two countries. So these are the very deep and meaningful and sustainable cooperations in these areas can be developed between the India and Central Asian republics, and that would connect these republics with each others diplomatically, economically, politically, and educationally. So you can see then what are the present government. The present government is also trying to, what the focus of the present government, particularly when Modi came into power, he is more focusing on the developmental agendas with these in India. And India, he is trying to sustain the economic growth. He is trying to mobilize the investments from the all over the world, and he is also trying to bring the energy and natural resources from all over the world. And this is the reason that first, what in India's neighborhood policy, he tried to explore the natural resources from Bhutan, Nepal, from hydroelectricity, and then he also trying to bring the natural resources, energy from Myanmar, and he also visited to the other you can say the third neighbors, Mongolia, because Mongolia is very rich in uranium and natural resources, so that how we can mobilize. We also trying to develop the better relations with the all over the world power, or like you can say that the world superpower, United States, so that you can have better age. In the same manner, India is also trying to develop closer ties with these Central Asian republics, and where, because we did not get, we have introduced Connected Central Asia policies, but we did not have the passage that how you can go and how you can execute. So after Modi coming into power in 2015, he initially tried to cultivate its relations with Pakistan, so that you can normalize the relations, but it could not get much success because Pakistan was always on their old path of supporting terrorism and extremism, and Pakistan always had been ruled by the military mindset. So when we did not get a positive response and supports from Pakistan, we had tried to generate the alternative routes, and that alternative routes had come in the form of developing a formal ties with Iran to develop the Chabahar port, where India will invest about $500 million. And this Chabahar port, once we will develop this Chabahar port, we will be in position to reach Afghanistan, and through Afghanistan we will be in position to make our presence to these 5 Central Asian republics. So you can see that how we are trying to develop our physical connectivity in the present government, because keeping the importance and significance of these 5 Central Asian republics. But now they are in this competitive world, or you can say that in this multilateral world, where the revisionist power, particularly Russia is trying to make its presence again in these Central Asian republics, or that former Soviet Union states, that there is always pressure, there is always a competition with Russia, that how much we can be involved in these 5 Central Asian states, where the China itself had become very assertive, from particularly when they have introduced one belt, one road, and they are trying to reach on Central Asian countries. So we are competing with China in these Afghanistan and in these Central Asian republics for economic and trade relations, as well as making our presence politically. But though we are trying to align, and I think that one positive development had been taken place when Americans, they have started realigning or rethinking its Afghan policies, and this rethinking Afghan policies, where Trump had given the statement that we will not waste our aid and assistance, billions of aid and assistance, to make Pakistan a safe haven for terrorists. That clear-cut indication was there that what Pakistan had been supporting to terrorism in Afghanistan, that has the wider implication in the region, will not go like this. And now India will have more role and more say in Afghanistan by making its presence in economic development and in democratic development of democratic ethos. So you can say that the Americans, they are where they have been hesitant about India's role in Afghanistan. Now they had come in support of, there is a change or shift in the policy. Now they are looking, they are more constructive, more positive role, more engagement from India to Afghanistan. So that you can, if India will make its presence in Afghanistan, then you can easily connect yourself with these 5 Central Asian republics. That could be a major source of India's economic growth, because it can, if we are able to bring the natural resources, they are very rich in natural gas and oil. If we will get the cheaper and sustainable supply of natural gas and oil from these Central Asian republics, that comes to they are just our third neighbor, that would sustain our economic growth. So my point, my submission is that India now, they should continue, they should sustain its policy towards the Central Asian republics, so that we can have better cooperations in economic sectors, in educational sectors, in health, medical sectors, and we can also develop and make we can also enhance our economic trade and investment relations with these Central Asian republics. One more point that India can do in these Central Asian republics are the supporting the service sectors, where because we had been supplier of services to not only in the Southeast Asian states, but the developed states. They are skilled and unskilled labor forces. They are working in many countries, where India can become instrumental to supply the labor, skilled and semi-skilled labor forces to these Central Asian republics. If we will have the better presence in these 5 five Central Asian republics, we will be in better position. We will be in better way. We can connect ourselves with Central Asian republics, and that would also bring us to the European countries. Because if you are looking at the former Soviet, all the former Eurasian states are also bordering to the Central Asian republics in the northern side. So you can see that India, by making its presence, making its connections with these five Central Asian states, would expand its strategic importance and significance to the Eurasian countries, and we can have access to the physical access to the European countries by and you will be also in position. India will also be in position to contain China in Afghanistan as well as in the Central Asian republics, because China, we have a lot of common interest. We have a lot of competitions with China in this region, so that if we can be successfully balanced Chinese in Central Asian countries or in Afghanistan, I think we can expand, or we can be instrumental in the development of these five Central Asian republics. And now things comes that how much we should align with United States, how much we should distance with China, and how much we should align ourselves with Russia, because they are all three important actors and factors in these five Central Asian republics. That is the matter of investigations, matter of these are the matter of understanding that how much emphasis, our policy emphasis, we are bringing. But if we have better constructive, positive engagement with these all powers in Central Asian countries, I think we will be benefited more, because these are the source of developments. These five Central Asian republics are the source of development for not only for India, for other parts. And we had very strong cultural ties, social and historical civilizational ties with these Central Asian republics. You will see that the history of India from ancient period onward, that many of the invasions had been from these Central Asian countries, or up to India from the northwestern territories, and those roots had been source of you can say that the different religions to South Asian countries, and for economic and trade relations with these South Asian countries. Now, since it has been de-linked after 1947 with the legacy and with the partisan legacy, now it is required to revive those lost link with these Central Asian republics, so that you can have better economic ties, you can have better political ties, you have better cultural ties with these and the sectors, particularly that the informal sectors or can play very important role, and the cooperations in an economic and or you can say infrastructure cooperations, educational cooperations, medical cooperation that I talked about, that those could be those could bridge the relations between between these two countries, and we are in position to expand our economic relations, our political relations with these two countries. So India should facilitate greater interactions between the Indian private sectors and Central Asian market forces, and also Central Asian states will have to work towards creating a more attractive investment environment for the Indian private sectors. Those also are the very conducive, very important areas where the two countries, to improve the India's connectivity and energy cooperation, India will have to play a proactive role both bilaterally and through regional cooperations, cooperative mechanism. In this regard, India will have to factor both Pakistan and China. As I talked, that there had been, now they are allying. There are questions of, because Pakistan and China, they are developing China-Pakistan economic corridor. So how India will go with China-Pakistan economic corridor, how India will react to their strategic uses and for their economic uses. Our fate with the Central Asian Republic would determine China-Pakistan economic corridor. But my submission is there that there are other players, other actors as well in these 5 Central Asian republics, where Iran, Russia, Turkey and US. These are the 4 important actors, and where you can say we had been historical allies of Russia, and that we can continue, and we are developing close proximity and strategic partnership with Americans that could be expanded to these Central Asian republics. So we can go, we can develop with these countries, and what India can also play a constructive role to bring the whatever the confrontations between Americans and the Iranians, particularly on nuclear issues, where Obama had successfully gone for the nuclear agreement with Iran, and but Trump is little bit drifting away what it had been done by the Obama administrations. But India can become an instrumental to bring the further cooperation between Iran and America. If Iran and American relations will go smooth, I think India would be in better position to have connectivity with Iran, not only with Iran but also with these 5 Central Asian republics, and you will have a better access to these energy resources of Iran and Central Asian republics. We had also been, we should support the democratic and progressive forces in Turkey, where it is in turbulence. So where India can also use its democratic credentials in Turkey to stabilize the democratic forces and in Turkey. And these 4 countries where I talked, Russia, Iran, Turkey and US, can become instrumental to develop our closer ties and closer relations with these Central Asian republics, and you can keep Pakistan and increasing Chinese influence from this region. And I think that could be a win-win situations where India and Central Asian republics can prosper together.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us this productive session. And friends, your feedbacks, your questions are all welcome. You can contact us through our email ID. Our ID is info.cec@nic.in. You can see the lecture once again as we are going to upload it on YouTube very soon. So keep watching us, keep writing us. Till our next visit, yes, we would be meeting. Thank you so very much.